Hello. Welcome back to Let's Talk Ray Bradbury, the show here on Let's Talk Entertainment. We're going back to 2018. I've been attempting to read and review each of the roughly 600 short stories written by the late, great Ray Bradbury. Today we are up to our 251st review, which is of Pietà Summer, the 12th of 22 short stories in his 2009 collection, We'll Always Have Paris. The way that these reviews work is I do a brief synopsis of what happens in the story, and then sort of wrap up a very light analysis of what it all means, what I took away from it. Is it a good story? Is it worth your time to read? And I mainly do this for my own entertainment, but I hope on occasion that some of you find this enlightening or useful. All right then, so two brothers, the younger, our narrator, are lying awake in bed. They're unable to sleep because in the morning they have to get up at 4:30 to watch two circuses come to town on the same exact day. The first circus is the biggest. It is the Ringling Brothers circus, and the smaller is a much tinier, more dilapidated circus called the Downing Brothers. The Ringling Brothers circus arrives by train that morning, just as expected, with hundreds of horses, zebras, elephants, and they sort of follow along as they parade them through the town to the fairgrounds. And then after they've watched all of these animals to their satisfaction, they go back across town to where they started and watch the other circus come to town. This one is much smaller. It arrives by truck, and there's a sense that the lions and the zebras and the horses all seem older and tired and dilapidated, and not as vigorous and alive as the members of the first circus. Afterwards, they have to go to work, and they spend the morning lugging 50-pound crates of glass-bottled sodas around. I don't know. It doesn't explain why they're doing this, other than that it's their job. Allegedly, I would say that it's for the circus. And then after that is done, it's time to play. They spend the rest of the day and long into the night watching both of these circus entertain them with all their explosions and animals and sounds and stunts and all of that. And then the character remembers late in the night after the tents have come down, he and his father walk back across town, the long walk, but he's exhausted. And his father sort of cradles him at his side for many of the miles. He remembers maybe stopping once on the porch of a friend, and then finally, for the last mile, his father carries him home. The next day, he sleeps for the entire day. He sleeps through breakfast and lunch, but finally awakes before dinner, at which point he tells his father, thank you for last night. His father says, thank you for what? Sort of oblivious to what he is saying. And then the boy, the narrator, remarks that he always thought of this as his, for the next 70 years, his Pietà Summer. So I had to look it up. Pieta is a Christian art theme and sculpture that depicts Mary cradling Jesus after his death. The word Pieta means pity or compassion. So I think for most of us, the relatable part of this story is that we tend to have some good memory from our life of being very, very excited about something when we were a kid, and then sort of the experience of it all, the long day, the exhaustion, and then sort of the coming down after you've had this experience, but sort of lingers in your mind, and it almost feels like a dream. Then the story gets a little bit weird. Bradbury tries to make this religious connection here that doesn't quite work for me. The narrator is not dead. The narrator is not wounded, just tired. And sort of to make this connection between, Mary cradling the body of the wounded Christ doesn't quite work for me. But there is the father's love to think of. That is a connection that is certainly religious. But in this case, it's not even depicted as being a conscious love. He sort of is oblivious to what he did for his son, what experience his son had. He doesn't share the same experience as him, and he doesn't really feel like anything special happened by just walking him home when he's tired, which is something that parents do repeatedly, I think, in many cases. So for me, the story does not quite work. At least not in the way that I think Bradbury was going for. It feels a little bit pretentious sort of to make this religious connection. But at the same time, it is an effortless, effervescent story filled with great childish enthusiasm, as the best Ray Bradbury stories often are, which I think is great. And then as the story goes on, it sort of fades into this sort of dreamlike place of half sleep, half memory that is always fun to experience in great fiction. So there you have it, Pietà Summer. Not one of the best stories in the collection. Sorry about that if you've already read it. Maybe you find it more enjoyable than I did, but it didn't really work for me, which is a rarity in Ray Bradbury. I enjoy most of his stories, but not so much this one. Next time, we'll be looking at our 252nd story, Fly Away Home, which is also the 13th of 22 stories in this collection. We'll always have Paris from 2009. So we are quickly rolling downhill towards the end of We'll Always Have Paris, but never fear, after that we will line up another collection to read as we attempt to finally put to rest this show, Let's Talk Ray Bradbury. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you again soon.